All right, so today we're going to be reading pages 37 to 43, completing slide 12, the left side. It's always good to take a look at the questions ahead of time. On page 39, what did George admit that he used to do? But then after Lenny did something, why did George decide to stop? On pages 40 to 41, George told Slim what really happened in Weed. And then in the end, Slim gave Lenny a what? And it's also in the beginning as well. All right, so if you remember, we're going back. This is the end of chapter 2, okay? And Lenny was watching George excitedly because Slim was just talking about how his pup had given birth. And Lenny cried, "A brown and white one," cried Lenny excitedly. "Come on, let's get dinner. I don't know whether he's got a brown and white one." Lenny didn't move from his bunk. "You ask him right away, George, so he won't kill no more of 'em." "Sure, come on now, get up on your feet." Lenny rolled off his bunk and stood up, and the two of them started for the door. Just as they reached it, Curly bounced in. "You seen a girl in here?" he demanded angrily. George said coldly, "About a half hour ago, maybe." "What the hell was she doing?" George stood still, watching the angry little man. He said, insultingly, "She said she was looking for you." Curly seemed to really see George for the first time. His eyes flashed over George, took in his height, measured his reach, looked at his trim middle. "Well, where'd she go?" he demanded at last. "I don't know," said George. "I didn't watch her go." Curly scowled at him and turned and hurried out the door. George said, "You know, Lenny, I'm scared I'm going to tangle with that bastard myself. I ate his guts. Jesus Christ. Come on, there won't be a damn thing left to eat." They went out the door. The sunshine lay in a thin line underneath the window. From a distance there could be heard a rattle of dishes. After a moment, the ancient dog walked lamely in through the open door. He gazed about with mild, half-blind eyes. He stiffened, and then lay down and put his head between his paws. Curly popped into the doorway again and stood looking into the room. The dog raised his head, but when Curly jerked out, the grizzled head sank to the floor again. Now, also in chapter 2, Carlson talked about maybe having Candy's dog shot and then giving him one of Slim's new pups instead. So we'll see if that actually happens or not. Chapter 3. Although there was evening brightness showing through the windows of the bunkhouse, inside it was dusk. Through the open door came the thuds and the occasional clangs of a horseshoe game, and now and then the sound of voices raised in approval or derision. Slim and George came into the darkening bunkhouse together. Slim reached up over the card table and turned on a tin-shaded electric light. Instantly, the table was brilliant with light, and then the cone of the shade threw a brightness straightened downward, leaving the corners of the bunkhouse still in dusk. Slim sat down on the box, and George took his place opposite. "That wasn't nothin'," said Slim. "I would have drowned most of 'em anyway. No need to thank me about that." George said, "Wasn't much to you, maybe, but it was a hell of a lot to him. Jesus Christ, I don't know how we're going to get him to sleep in here. He'll want to sleep right out in the barn with him. We'll have trouble keeping him from getting right in the box with them pups." All right, so now if you look here, what did Slim give Lenny? Well, right here it says we're going to have trouble keeping him right in the box with them pups. So he did give him at least one of the pups from his dog's litter. "I wasn't nothing," Slim repeated. Say, you sure was right about him. Maybe he ain't bright, but I've never seen such a worker. He damn near killed his partner, bucking barley. There ain't nobody can keep up with him. God almighty, I've never seen such a strong guy. George spoke proudly. Just tell Lenny what to do and he'll do it if it don't take no figuring. He can't think of nothing to do himself, but he can sure take orders. There was a clang of a horseshoe on the iron stake outside and a little cheer of voices. Slim moved back slightly so that the light was not on his face. Funny how you and him string along together. It was Slim's calm invitation to confidence. What's funny about it? George demanded defensively. Oh, I don't know. Hardly none of us guys ever travel together. I hardly never seen two guys travel together. You know how the hands are. They just come in, they get their bunk, and they work a month, and then they quit and they go out alone. Never seem to give a damn about nobody. It's kind of funny, a cuckoo like him and a smart little guy like you traveling together. Oh, he ain't no cuckoo, said George. He's dumb as hell, but he ain't crazy. And I ain't so bright either, or I wouldn't be bucking barley for my 50 and found. If I was bright, I even just a little bit smart, I'd have my own place, and I'd be bringing up my own crops, instead of doing all the work and not getting what's coming up out of the ground. George fell silent. He wanted to talk. Slim neither encouraged nor discouraged him. He just sat back quiet and receptive. Ah, ain't so funny, him and me going around together, George said at last. Him and me was both born in Auburn. I know his Aunt Clara. She took him when he was a baby and raised him up. When his Aunt Clara died, Lenny just came along with me out working. Got kind of used to each other after a while. Mm-hmm, said Slim. George looked over at Slim and saw the calm, godlike eyes fastened on him. Funny, said George. I used to have a hell of a lot of fun with him. I used to play jokes on him 'cause he was too dumb to take care of himself. But he was too dumb to even know he had a joke played on him. I had fun. All right, so this is kind of what it's talking about. Here it said, I used to play jokes on him because he was too dumb, not necessarily to take care of himself. This little but word lets us know really why he did it. He was too dumb to even know he had a joke played on him. Now, in the future, you're going to be reading a story called Of Mice and Men, and I want you to keep this in mind to compare and contrast to that. But now, we're going to read about why did George stop making jokes on him. Made me seem like a goddamn smart alongside of him. Why you do anything I told it. If I told him to walk over a cliff, over he go. That wasn't so damn much fun after a while. He never got mad about it, neither. I beat the hell out of him, and he could have bust every bone in my body just with his hands. But he never lifted a finger against me. George's voice was taking on a tone of confession. Now, that's kind of an interesting word. So he's confessing this to Slim, what he used to do to Lenny. Oh, and then here it comes right up what we were talking about, why he ended up stopping what he ended up doing to Lenny. Why? Tell you what made me stop that. One day a bunch of guys was standing around on the Sacramento River. I was feeling pretty smart. I turned to Lenny and I says, jump in. And he jumps. Couldn't swim a stroke. He damn near drowned before we could get him, and he was so damn nice to me for pulling him out. Clean forgot I'm the one who told him to jump in. Well, I ain't done nothing like that no more. I think part of the reason why he felt bad is this part right here. He was so nice to me for pulling him out, and he forgot I'm the one who told him to jump in. So I think what you could do for that question, I'll put in a little text box right here. Oops, hold on. put in a little text box. So, let's see. Can I move the try a text box again. See if we can move it. There we go. Okay. Okay, so you can say something like, George decided to stop because even though he was mean to Lenny, Lenny was always nice to him or kind to him. I think that's what really made him stop, right? He's a nice fella, said Slim. Guy don't need no sense to be a nice fella. Seems to me sometimes it just works the other way around. Take a real smart guy, and he ain't hardly ever a nice fella. George stacked and scattered cards and began to lay out his solitaire hand. The shoes thudded on the ground outside at the window of the light of the evening, which still made the squares bright. I ain't got no people, George said. I seen the guys that go around on these ranches alone. They ain't no good. They ain't have no fun, and after a long time they get mean. They get wanna fightin' all the time. Yeah, they get mean, Slim agreed. They get so that they don't want to talk to nobody. Of course, Lenny's a goddamn nuisance most of the time. But you can get used to going around with a guy, and then you can't get rid of him. He ain't mean, said Slim. I can see Lenny ain't a bit mean. Of course he ain't mean, but he gets into trouble all the time because he's so goddamn dumb, like what happened in Weed. He stopped in the middle of turning over a card, and he looked alarmed, and he peered over at Slim. You wouldn't tell nobody? What'd he do in Weed? Slim asked calmly. You wouldn't tell? No, of course you wouldn't. What'd he do in Weed? Slim asked again. All right, so this is what he did in Weed, which is our other question. Well, he seen this girl in a red dress. Dumb bastard like he is, he wants to touch everything he likes, just wants to feel it. So he reaches out to feel this red dress, and the little girl lets out a squawk. And that gets Lenny all mixed up, and he holds on because that's the only thing he can think to do. Well, this girl squawks and squawks. I was just a little bit off, and I heard all the yelling, so I come a running, and by that time Lenny's so scared all he can do is just hold on. I sock him over the head with a fence picket just to make him let go. He was so scared he couldn't let go of that dress. And he's so goddamn strong, you know? Slim's eyes were level and unwinking. He nodded very slowly. So what happens? George carefully built his line of solitaire cards. Well, that girl rabbits and tells the law she been raped. The guys in Weed start a party out to lynch Lenny. So we sit in an irrigation ditch under the water all the rest of that day. Got up to our heads sticking out of the water and up under the grass that sticks out from the side of the ditch. And then at night, we scrammed out of there. Slim sat in silence for a moment. Didn't hurt the girl none, huh? He asked finally. Hell no! He just scared her. I'd be scared too if he grabbed me. But he never hurt her. He just wanted to touch that red dress like he wants to pet them pups all the time. He ain't mean, said Slim. I can tell a mean guy from a mile off. Course he ain't, and he'll do any damn thing Lenny came through the door. He wore his blue denim coat over his shoulders like a cape, and he walked hunched way over. Hi, Lenny, said George. How you like the pup now? Lenny said breathlessly, He's brown and white, just like I wanted. He went directly to his bunk, lay down, and turned his face to the wall, and drew up his knees. George put his cards down very deliberately. Lenny, he said sharply. Lenny twisted his neck and looked over his shoulder. Huh? What do you want, George? I told you you couldn't bring that pup in here. What pup, George? I ain't got no pup. George went quickly to him, grabbed him by the shoulder, rolled him over. He reached down and picked up the tiny puppy from where Lenny had been concealing it against his stomach. Lenny sat up quickly. "Give him to me, George," George said. "You get right up here and take this pup back to the nest. He's got to sleep with his mother. You want to kill him? Just born last night. You want to take him out of the nest? You got to take him back, or else I'll tell Slim not to let you have him." Lenny held out his hands pleadingly. "Give him to me, George. I'll take him back. I didn't mean no harm, George. Honest, I didn't. I just want to pet him a little." George handed the pup to him. "All right, you get back there quick, and you don't take him out no more. You'll kill him, and the first thing you know—" Lenny fairly scuttled out of the room. Slim had not moved. His calm eyes followed Lenny out the door. "Jesus, he's just like a kid, ain't he?" "Sure, he's just like a kid. There ain't no more harm in him than a kid either, except he's so strong. I bet he won't come in here to sleep tonight. He'll sleep right alongside that box in the barn. Well, let him. He'd do no harm out there." All right, so that's the end of what we're going to read today. And now you should be able to answer what George admitted that he did to Lenny and when he stopped. And then George told Slim what really happened in Weed. So you should place your answer there. And then in the end, what did Slim give Lenny?